Uh, Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have participants from different parts of the world. Whether you're joining us live or watching us later on, welcome. We are excited today to bring to you um, a very interesting lecture that presented by Alex Alves, and he's going to be speaking on the topic of how to overcome life's obstacles. And again, thank you very much. I mean, this talk series has been promoted. This has been promoted by the U.S. Spiritist Federation. It is held every Saturday, 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. It's the federation has been with this particular program for a while. Some of you might have joined for a while back, and some of you have joined for the first time today. A few announcements before we get into our lecture here is take a moment. Follow the if you have not done so, the U.S. Spiritist Federation is in several social media platforms. Of course, Facebook, Instagram, the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, and YouTube. And again, several of you are watching us in one of those different platforms. So make sure that if you have not done so yet, you can subscribe to them. Um, the U.S. Spiritist Federation has also a very important project, or should I say, projects that involve the dissemination of Spiritism and enlightenment of the different of the Spiritist movement. So they offered the make sure you visit the U.S. Spiritist Federation bookstore at spiritistbooks.us. And if you want to learn more about children and youth education, make sure that you check out the again, if you're already working, right, or if you're interested in educational resources for youth and children, make sure you explore the Family, Youth, and Children Spirit Education. So FIXI website at spiritistkids.us. And that's where you're going to discover excellent materials and ideas for youth educators. And I'll say that all of us are youth educators. All of us have a chance to provide a good message to the next generation of spirit of youngsters, right? So, hey, Alex, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning, guys.
Speaking of young people, like, you and I, we're both young people, but it's important for us to educate the next, and we were just talking about that, educate the next generation, of youngsters so they can continue the Spiritist movement and continue contributing as well. This is excellent. I'm excited about your lecture today, by the way. A very practical topic, right? How to overcome life's obstacles. And for those who don't know Alex Alves, Alex, if you don't mind, just give me a few moments to introduce you and go over your biography a little bit here. So you're a worker. Alex is a worker and general coordinator of the PSS, which is the Plenitude Spiritist Society in Kissimmee, Florida. And Alex has served as a board member for the Spiritist Federation of Florida and has been actively contributing to the American Spiritist movement for the past 15 years. This is awesome, Alex. And feel free to send, again, Alex, your topic is very interesting. So all of those who are watching right now, feel free to send your questions at any time during the presentation using the chat window, and Alex will set aside some time towards the end to address any comments or questions. And Alex, this is the introduction, sir. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you so very much, Klaus. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys this morning. Thank you so very much for the opportunity. I don't like when you mention that I've been contributing for the Spiritist movement in the US for 15 years, because just reminds me how fast I'm getting old, and I don't like that. I don't like that. But on the other hand, I like it that we are getting older because we will have to give space for the younger generation coming just behind us. And we can never forget. Yes, we have not to teach them, but we just have to guide them because the new generation which is coming, they are already much more better prepared than we are. We know, and this is on this Kardec's works, especially on posthumous works, that the new generation will be taking over because they are already much more well prepared than we are to face the challenges that the world will face during the transformation from the planet of trials and atonements to the world of regeneration. These people, the ones which will lead us towards these transformations and these changes, they are already among us. But as we are still continue living on this world of trial and atonements, obstacles, challenges, issues, complications, problems, they are just part of our lives. And how to deal with that? Because nowadays, with looks like in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, with the information access that we all have and everything else, looks like problems are coming towards us and information are coming towards us much faster than we can handle. And the things are becoming a lot faster than it used to be in the past. So when we used to have a problem at a work and a family and everything else, we usually would have a few days to reflect and everything. But nowadays, everyone and everything expects answers and solutions right away. We are losing our patience to be dealing with our problems and obstacles. But as they are part of our lives, it's important that we settle down and take a few moments to reflect upon on what's going on and how to react to that. So we don't allow ourselves to be taken over the waves of problems and issues that we have. I think that it's important to remind that one of the very first things that we have to be that we have to have in mind is there is no mistakes in God's plans. Period. If we have something, if we have a struggle, if we have a problem, if we have an obstacle to overcome, or that's a result or consequence of a choice that we made in the past, or it's because the fact, the obstacle that we have, it has a lesson to us. So one of the very first things that we should think is, well, if there is no mistakes in God's plans, so I should be grateful for the things that I'm facing right now at this moment. When we think about gratitude, for example, the very first thing that we learn to do about gratitude is to be grateful for the good things that happens to us. Oh, I was promoted. I found a wife for the love of my life. I won the lotto. I got about a new car or something like that. And we are grateful for the good things that happens to us. As we evolve, we started to understand that it's not just that, but we learned to be grateful for the bad things that do not happen to us. An accident that has been avoided, a delay that happened that we are not facing a consequence in the future or something like that. So we start to be, I'm glad that I was late because I wasn't caught on that traffic jam. I'm grateful that something happens or a light come up to me and I avoided this car accident that I might be involved in. So we start to be grateful for the bad things that don't happen to us. But as we evolve even more, we learn to be grateful for the challenges as well. Because according to Joanna de Angelis, which is it's very important, Joanna de Angelis says the gratitude is the ultimate expression of the psychological maturity of a humankind. So once we learn to be grateful, even to our problems, it means that we are very spiritual, evolved, and mature, which is a very important thing in order to be able to face the challenges and obstacles that we are facing in our lives. I would like to bring a passage from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verses from 1 to 7, which is the base of our study today. I'm going to be using this passage to go a kind of a verse by verse evaluation and comparison, see what we can bring under the light of the Spiritist doctrine, the observations and the teachings and the lessons that we can extract from that in order to be able for us to face our challenges in a more tranquil and paused way. And the passages goes like this. And when Jesus had entered Jericho, he went through the city. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, and he was a chief of the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus was, oh, and he sought to see who Jesus was, and could not because of the multitude, for he was of a small stature. And he ran forward and climbed up a fig tree to see him, because he would pass that way. And then Jesus came to that place. He looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, come down quickly, for today it is fitting for me to lodge at thy house. And he hastened down and received him gladly. And when they saw all of this, they murmured, saying that he had come and to be the guest of a sinful man. Okay, how can we relate to these verses? Before we start to evaluate each one of the messages and the lessons that we have over there, I would like to brief or build a foundation for our study as well, based on the Spiritist book. And I apologize for this slide. I don't know what happened. Maybe you guys cannot read it, but it says like this on the Spiritist book, introduction, just in the beginning of the book, introduction, item number 6. Kardec says, by the words of the spiritual, the enlightened spirits, the spiritual word, it's the normal, original, and eternal word, pre-existing and surviving everything else. The physical word is only secondary. That's very important. The spiritual word, it's the normal, original, and eternal word. So that means once we pass it away, this life, this material existence experience that we are living right now, we are going back to home. We are going back to house. After that, question 230 on the Spiritist book. Do spirits progress when they are on the spiritual realm? And the question is, they may in proportion to their efforts and desire for improvement, but it is in the physical life that they put the new ideas they have acquired into practice. So, we've said that before. The stage that we find ourselves, it's one of the trials and atonements. Much more trials and very little of atonement because we are still not prepared to pay our debt towards God, not quite just yet. Obstacles and difficulties are what take us up out of our comfort zone and push up to the hill. So, for example, all of you guys that are watching me this morning, a very bright and sunny summer Saturday morning, you guys already have a passage to any spiritual realm and colony on the spiritual world because you guys are very kind to me. So, all of you guys are going to be going back to No Solar or any other spiritual place in the future. On these places, as per the, especially by the Andre Louis works and books, we learned that we live with people that like and love us. We don't have to fight for a job because most likely we're going to be having something to do. We don't have to worry about food because we're going to be feeding ourselves with a special diet or even with the air and the oxygen that we have over there. We're going to be living on a place where there is no challenges because everybody trying to be, in order to be acquiring new knowledges for evolving and progress and everything. So we're going to be living what we could say almost in a perfect place. So if you are living in a perfect place where there is no conflicts, no demands, no nothing, where we're going to be practicing and showing God that we have learned the virtues that we have to learn. It's not in the spiritual realm. It's over here on earth, on our daily struggles and activities, that we're going to be showing up to ourselves and to God that we have learned the virtues. So the struggles, the obstacles that we have, they are part of our life, they are important, and they are necessary, because these are the trials that we have to see if we understood and we are able to practice and live by the virtues that we were supposed to. Where am I going to be practicing patience, for example? It's not in no solar. It's in my daily life with my boss, with my wife, or anything like that. We need to have those struggles in the on earth in order to be pushed out of our comfort zone and be able to practice the teachings that we have learned on the spiritual realm. This is very important, because most of the time we forgot about our true life. We are so focused on the material life that we forgot where we came from and where we are going back after we pass it away on this life. So it's important to know and to understand our normal life is the spiritual one. That's where we have the learning, the teachings, and we got involved in a very propitious environment to learn. But it's over here on earth with the obstacles that we put in practice whatever we have learned in the past. So as moving forward, Joanna de Angelis also defined difficulty or obstacles as the tests to challenge the latent values of knowledge of each one's ability to fight. So over here, the obstacles are the way to prove ourselves that what we have learned on the spiritual world we are able to understand and we are able to practice the virtues and the values that we need to. So, if it weren't for the obstacles, we would be eternally condemned to suffer from what we call in Brazil the Gabriela syndrome. Is it arrives from the music from Dorival Caymmi, beautiful, gorgeous music, but that says, I was born this way, I grew up this way, I lived like this, I'm really like this, I'll always be like this. And we know that is not true. The Spirit's book, third part, chapter 7, Law of Progress. All of us will have to progress somehow. And if we are not challenged, if we do not take out of our comfort zone, we would never be progressing. But the progress is from the law. It's a divine and natural law. We gotta be taken out of our comfort zones. So obstacles are the way that we are moving out and we can move on towards the progress and the evolvement that we need for ourselves. Anyways, we understand why we have the obstacles and the struggles in our lives. Now, let's try to see how to deal with them, how to react to them. What should I do? Or at least what is expecting me from me to do when I face a struggle or obstacle or difficult in my life. Then we start to go back to the passage from the Gospel of Lucas, and we're gonna start to see each one of these characteristics. The very first thing that I would like to try to bring is, and he tried to see who Jesus was. And he could not because of the crowd, because he was small in his stature. Well, first of all, why he was looking for Jesus? Most of us, I would say 98% of us, we look for Christ or divinity or religiosity, whatever religion we decided to follow, when we are in trouble, when we have a problem, when we have a difficult, when we face a situation that we are not so sure how to react on or what to do. That's when we look for Christ, divinity, or religiosity. Zacchaeus was looking for Jesus because he was looking for a new thought, a new mental field, a new attitude, a new life. That's what happens to us. Why I'm going through so many complications in my life? What's going on with me? And we start to look at it in other ways to find guidance, to find help, to find support, to find orientation. That's exactly what he was looking for. And even in the Gospel of Luke, in the chapter 11, we'll find, seek and you shall find. He couldn't see Jesus because of the obstacles and difficulties that we created ourselves. He couldn't see him also because of the crowds and the small stature. What kind of crowd do we have? Actually, we have two types of crowds. First, the crowd around us, our friends, our families, our environments, our work environments, everything that we surrounded us nowadays, that we suffer a lot of a pressure, or what we call the peer pressure, not to look for something different. People that are around us, they don't want us to change. They don't want us to move and looking for something else, because they don't feel comfortable. They think that's not something that is proper to us or anything like that. So we feel a lot of pressure. No, I used to go out with these people. These people, they don't service me. They don't serve me anymore. They don't fit me anymore. I don't feel comfortable around them. But we feel a lot of pressure not to leave these people or not to leave their group, even because sometimes we're afraid to be left alone. And loneliness in one of our challenges is one of the worst things that for most people, they have a difficulty in being alone. So we couldn't see Jesus, or he couldn't see Jesus, because we feel a lot of pressure from other people. The other type of a crowd that we have are the, I don't know, hundreds of personalities that live inside of us. We cannot forget that this is not our first incarnation. We've believed it before many, 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 many times, maybe thousands of times. And every time that we come to Earth, we develop a personality, a learning experience, and we build the support and the base on what we are nowadays. So let's face it, for example, that in the past, I used to be Jewish. And then now I was born as a Palestine, or the other way around. I was a Buddhist, and now I'm a Christian. And wow, the values that we have inside of me make me feel so confused, because what I learned in the past is not what I'm asked to be doing today. So I have a conflict inside of me. So this crowd on our multiple personalities, also it's an obstacle that we have to face, but we have to deal with that once we have the light ahead of us. The small stature, refers to the because we are still infants on the spiritual life and involvement. We are still as a child. We need the support. We need the support which Christ is willing to give and help us if we reach out for him. That's important. If you look into the gospel and all the passages, all the lessons, all the teachings and everything, there is not a single one when he went and helped someone without being asked. Everything that he did, everyone that he helped, he said, "What do you need? What do you want? Come unto me." When he was helping Lazarus, for example, Lazarus was his friend. He used to dine and spend days with Lazarus. And when he learned that Lazarus has passed away, well, first of all, he waited 2 days before he went back to Lazarus. Secondly, when he got there, he said, "Stand up and walk towards me." He didn't go over there, open the tomb, or move the stone and said, "Lazarus, wake up." No, no. You wake up, you stand up, and you walk towards me. So that's one of the things that we need to do. If we decided that we have to change, we have to move forward in order to find Christ and his guidance. The other aspect is, and he ran forward and climbed up into a wild fig tree to see him, because he would pass through that. I like that word, running forward, because when we feel threat or in danger or in problems and everything, our very first instinct is to run away. I don't want these problems. I don't want these things to me anymore. I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to be running away from that. But it is important to note here that the term is run forward. not without sense or direction or in desperation, but a forward, in search of something better, in something, in searching something which is ahead of us, above us. In other words, he did not run away, but he ran to seek changes and solutions. So we're facing a problem. Very first question is why? Is this a result of something that I did recently? Is this a consequence of one of my choices that I made in the past few months or few years or something like that? So we know the reason. If we don't have a very plausible reason right away based on something that we did recently, so this is because there is a challenge and a lesson to be learned over there. If there is a lesson and a challenge to be learned over there, we should be run forward in a way that we can find the solutions that we need to face the problem. Because also, it's very important to have in mind God does not put in our shoulders anything heavier that we don't have the strength to hold up. If he would be doing that, he wouldn't be God. Because God is love, kindness, mercy. He wouldn't be punishing us with something that we are not prepared or able or strong enough to hold up to. So whatever we face, it's because we are prepared for that. It's a very important thing. Running forward. The other thing which it calls my attention over here is he climbed a tree. So imagine a publican, and he was a tax collector. He was a Jewish tax collector working for the Romans, collecting money from the Jewish. Can you imagine that? Someone from on your own people collecting tax for someone else, and you are taking advantage out of this. Usually, the publicans, they were rich and snobbish. So by his clothes over here on this picture, you can see how well dressed he is and everything else. So that's kind of interesting to see. So imagine the situation. He is running forward, climbing up in a tree in the middle of a public road in plain sight, rich and snobby as he used to be. Imagine the situation. Imagine the shame for that. But to see and reach Christ, it is necessary to sacrifice concepts and prejudices to break the pattern of behavior. It is important that we forget about our shame. To see Christ, we have to go up. We have to get rid of the ground, get rid of the stand out from the crowd that surrounded us. We gotta somehow move up. And the shame cannot be something that we are ashamed of having. I decided that this situation, whatever I'm facing, all of these multitudes and all these people over here, they don't fit me anymore. If they don't fit me anymore, I gotta climb up or something that will guide me or give me the light and the guidance that I need. And I don't care about what you think about me or about my reactions. I care about my decisions to be better in life, learning new lessons, moving and switching my pathway in order that I can reach my involvement on a faster and easier way. So whatever you think or whatever you're thinking on me, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, that's like we used to say, you don't pay my bills. I do. Yeah? You don't have my pain. I do. And I should know better what I have to do in order to alleviate this pain, get the counsel and the guidance that I need so I can move it forward. So, shame and being able to run forward and looking for something better is something that we shouldn't be worried about. It should be things that we should be doing in order to evolve and get a better aspect of ourselves. The other topic is, and when Jesus came into that place, he looked up and saw him and said it to him, Zacchaeus, come down quickly, for today is fitting for me to stay at your house. Well, uh, and when Jesus came, okay, when Jesus came, Jesus has arrived, or we found him. But for that, we have to do two things. Okay? First, we need to want. We need to want that Jesus comes to us or that we find him. Come to me, all of you who suffer. And the second thing is we gotta make room for Jesus. Jesus usually arrives in these places and participates in situations aimed at bringing support and opportunities for achievements. He does not come to solve the problems for us. He comes to strengthen our will to seek the solution for ourselves. So when Jesus came, it's important that we understand that he's going to bring guidance. He's not going to bring solutions. No one in the spiritual world has the power to solve our problems for ourselves. We gotta do ourselves, but we gotta do by ourselves. But what happens when allow Christ to come and we listen to Him? For sure, we're gonna be guiding the guidances and the help that we need. But the other thing it's important also, today is convenient for me to stay our house. The term stay, we can have two meanings for that. A temporary stay or a permanent stay. You know, oh, today I'm gonna spend the weekend in New York. João, can I stay at your place for just one night? Oh, yes, of course you can. Or we're gonna stay forever. Temporary is just something that is something for today. So, which happens to a lot of us. We have a problem, we have an issue, we go after our spiritist center or church or any other religious place that we like. We feel we receive the guidance, we receive good energy, we feel comfortable, we feel energized, we solve our problem immediately, and we disappear. And we never came back. Chances are next week we're going to be facing, if not the same problem and issue, another one similar because we didn't stay to learn all the lessons that we need. When we decide that Jesus is going to stay permanently with us, we got to change. Permanent is when he remains with us. But when he remains with us, that means that we have to start to using his virtue on a permanent basis in our attitudes. That will help us to reroute our behavior and using this behavior to avoid other consequences for the future. When Jesus stays permanently with us, when we make space in our hearts in order for him to stay permanently, we will have to change our behavior because our behavior does no longer fit us ourselves anymore. So we want him to come and we want him to stay with us. When he stays with us, we will feel the blessing. We're going to feel the energy. We're going to feel calm. We're going to feel centralized, focused. And we're going to be a lot stronger to avoid behaviors and patterns that doesn't fit us anymore. So it's important that once we make room for him, we make enough room for him to stay. And we decided to give it up on our past and previous behaviors as well. Uh, and he rested down and received him gladly. He received it with joy. So Zacchaeus received Christ with joy. The pinnacle of an achievement is always a moment of jubilation and joy. He came down from the tree because he found Christ and he decided to let him land in his life. Definitely. When we are talking about letting Christ land in our lives, we're not talking about in a sense of worship or praise. Oh, I'm a Christian, I believer, I follow his footsteps, I go to the church, I do this, I do that. It's not just that. To land definitely, but to allow Christ to stay with us, it requires actions, not worship. So, what was the action that Zacchaeus took it away once he found Christ and decided that Christ would stay on his heart? He said, I would pay back everything that I collected, that I over collected from other people. and I will give it away all my fortune for the ones that doesn't are in more needed than I am. So he act upon that. So once we decide that Christ is going to be staying with us, we are not going to be facing the same obstacles and struggles anymore, and we needed to go back and solve the issues that we have. That's exactly what his Zacchaeus did. He acted upon that. Action is the word that we should be using and thinking and reflecting every time that we have something different in our lives. We decided that we have a new behavior, we decide that we want a new virtue on us, we have to act upon that. Just as the worship, it's not going to help. It's going to be a principle. It's going to be just the first step, but it's not going to take us much longer if we're going to start to act based on those virtues and values. And finally, in order to that we can wrap up our study today, it says, when they saw all of these, they murmured, saying that he had come in to be guest of a sinful man. Assim, as if what it's not what Christ came for. You know, I came for the sick because the Son of the Man came to save what was lost. So he was doing exactly what is expected from him, Christ, I mean. He was doing exactly what was expected from him. He was not paying attention if Zacchaeus was a sinner or if he was a robber or he was an unjust person because he was collecting more money than he was supposed to. Jesus was thinking that on that day, someone saved himself. And he decided to stay with that person in order to fortify the new meanings and the new ideas that he had. And once we decided that, Christ will be always with us in thinking, in thoughts, in support and help, because we're going to be surrounded by the enlightened spirits. Why is that? And it's very important that we understand why is that. Because once we decided to change our behavior, our minds will change, our thoughts will change, our words and actions will change. In order that we're going to be attracting to ourselves enlightened spirits. The enlightened spirits will bring to us enlightened thoughts and ideas. That's how we support, that's how we keep with this nice feeling once we find out ourselves in a different way. Not just because Christ came and solved the problems for us. No, we are being inspired by the enlightened spirits because we changed our behavior and we changed our minds. Zacchaeus experiences on this lifetime, the exhaustion of habits demanding changes, the awakening to a new life, the desire to see Jesus, the effort to reach this goal are the steps that made him reach to this state of joy. Zacchaeus' examples of diligence, humility, obedience, and determination serve as an encouragement and a stimulus to all of us who will still struggle to overcome our obstacles, our crowd, and our small stature. By his example, one can be sure that seeing and being with Christ and that the state of permanent happiness are possible and depend solely on us. But to make those changes, we need the obstacles. Because if not, we're going to be eternally on a comfort zone. When we add to this equation everything that we just mentioned, everything, all the behaviors that Zacchaeus had, when we add to this equation the fact that the obstacles are God's tools to make us to move forward, to take us take us out of our comfort zone, it makes it even easier to face and overcome life's obstacles. Because imperfect spirits living on an imperfect world cannot have a perfect life. Obstacles, struggles, problems will be always part of our life. Thank you so very much. There's a lot of comments. Is there any questions?
Well, we're gonna. Hey, first of all, Alex, thank you very much. Very inspiring, and I like the fact I myself, I like the fact that you mentioned the story about Zacchaeus and Lazarus as well.
Yeah.
And the comment you made about Jesus, that's what Jesus said, hey, I'm here to help, but you gotta stand up.
You gotta do your part, man. Well, stand up. I'm not going over there. And on
Awesome.
which is also important, Glaucio, just to see how deep this teaching on this passage is important. Lazarus, it was a friend of Jesus. They used to they used to have dinner together. They used to have conversations together. Jesus was a frequent visitor to his place, to his sister's houses and everything else. So imagine if it's us, normal lives. Oh, your friend is it's passing away. Your friend needs help. You drop everything that you're doing. You run away towards someone that needs the help. Jesus didn't do that. Even for his friend, he said, you gotta do your part. You gotta stand up by yourself. You gotta come to me. But once he decided to do it, his life has been transformed. And once we decided to do that as well, our lives is transformed. When we decided to change the vices that we have, the moral vices, by the virtues, everything will change.
Awesome. I believe we have one more announcement. There you go. Yeah. So we were talking right before you got started. We are talking about the FIXE, which is the website by the Spiritist um, Spiritist Federation. Again, if you're an educator or if you want to learn about how to educate the next generation. Also, like to point out here before we start, Alex, you mentioned there are several comments. We're gonna visit those shortly, but talk about the Be My Hope, which is an incredible app, free app that provides spiritual assistance, uplifting content, and promotes spiritism as well. So it's very nice, very amazing. It's funny because it does use AI also to provide some of that guidance. All right, let's delve into the question and comments. All right, so this one comes from the U.S. Spiritist Federation. According to Spiritism, why is moral evolution more important than intellectual progress? And how should this understanding shape the way we live on Earth?
The moral evolution is the base of our spiritual life. So once we start to have, and actually here, it's not that it's more important, maybe it's more valuable, but in order to evolve ourselves, we have to develop both the moral and the intelligence. And actually, that's one of the phrases from Emmanuel. Emmanuel says that in order to the spirit to evolve, you have to have both the intellectual and the moral evolvement. One of the things that happens is when you develop your intellectual aspect, you start to think better, you can anticipate consequences, and you can anticipate the future. Well, if it decided like this, what's going to happen? If I take this way, what's going to happen? And once we have evolved the intelligence, we are going to be able to anticipate the consequences on a better way. And once we do that, we also grows morally. Actually, they are interrelated. There is not one it's more important than the other. Both have to be developed together in order to reach the evolutionary state that we are supposed to.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. So this is from Danielle Santos. How can we discern whether a specific trial or obstacle is a necessary expiation from a past reincarnation or simply the natural consequence of our choices and imperfections in the present lifetime?
It's hard to say. Um, According to the Spiritist doctrines and the books and everything else that we have read in the past, we have much more trials than expiations. What is the expiation? Expiation is when we pay back whatever we had made wrongly in the past, and we pay back to someone that we prejudiced, for example, that we did something wrong. But as we look in our involvement so far, most likely our credit card debit with God, it's much higher than we can pay. We are not prepared to pay everything quite yet. So most of our challenges are just trials. The expiations will be faced down as we evolve and we're able to support a higher debit towards that. That's the very first thing. The second thing is that's not important. It's why I should be wasting time. Is this a result from my previous life, or is this a result for something that I did last week? It doesn't matter. What is important is how do I react to it? How am I going to be behaving from now on with that? What is the lesson that I have over here to be learning? That's the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. From TV Say, Spiritism teaches that every trial is an opportunity for growth. Why do we often resist life's challenges instead of embracing them as a valuable lessons for our spiritual evolution?
Because we are kids and we like our comforts. We are, I just mentioned that on the talk, we are still infants on the evolutionary process, on the spiritual evolutionary process that we have to face. And no kids like to be taken away of their comfort zone. We don't like that. We face problems as a difficulty, which when we should be facing problems as a challenge and opportunity to grow and to evolve. You know, take a look at, for example, on these high performance athletes. They keep training and practicing until they reach perfection. So every time that they miss a shot, miss a play, or something like that, they're going to be practicing more and more in order to be executing the play and the shot on the level of perfection. So they face that as a challenge in order to be better. And when we miss a shot or the play, I say, I don't like this game anymore. I'm not going to be playing this anymore. So that's not what I expected from a high performance athlete. That's not what God's expected from his perfect created spirits. He expected from us, in order to be improving ourselves, to reach out to the perfection in everything that we do.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying. And I like the analogy that you used about a high performance athlete.
Yeah.
Spiritism USA. According to Spiritism, suffering can be an opportunity for moral progress. Can we embrace this teaching without becoming passive or indifferent to injustice, abuse, or the suffering of others?
How can we embrace this teaching without becoming passive or indifferent to injustice, abuse? Actually, we are not going to be becoming passive. And why is that? Because once we suffer something, we relate it to somebody else's which is going through the same thing. We know the feeling. We know how the people feel. We know what the people need because we passed it by the same thing. We had the same needs and the same feelings. So we will never be indifferent to any kind of injustice, abuse, or any kind of a suffering because we went through that and we know what the person needs. And once we start to evolve morally, we will understand that we are all brothers and sisters in need of the same support and help. So once we go through suffer, we're going to be evolving a little bit, depending on the problems and the struggles that we have, a little bit more spiritually. Once we evolve and we see someone else going through the same thing, we won't be able to just pass down and not look down for the people who needs it. We're going to be helping. We're not going to be indifferent to injustice, abuse, or anything else.
Thank you. So it's a matter of enlightenment, right? It's a matter
Yeah,
of
exactly.
getting that discernment. Awesome. Thank you. From U.S. Spiritist Federation. Why does our own family sometimes serve as a crowd that impedes us from connecting with the spiritual?
Because each one of us, we have a different evolvement level. We think differently. We are family created by the same parents on the same conditions in the same house with the same food, the same school, the same group, the same everything else. We have three brothers, three totally different people among them because we have different experiences and we have different backgrounds, spiritually speaking. So let's just suppose that we've been incarnated for 10,000 years. Okay, and let's suppose that we reincarnate, let's say, each 200 years. So 10,000 divided by 200, we had 50 incarnations. So we have 50 different lifestyles, experiences, each one is all together. On this life, we happens to be all together with the same basis. But our 50 previous incarnations gave us different ideas and perspectives. So what we are today, it's the result of the sum of the previous experiences that we have. So each one of us, we have a different background, spiritually speaking. Okay. When we come to Earth, it's not in our first 10, 50, 20, 20, 30 years that we're going to be moving or changing these behaviors and everything that we learned in the past. So the very different people and personalities that we have in the family will act against or towards us because we have different feelings. So each one of us is different. So I don't think like you. Oh, yeah. Also, I've been married for 42 years. Okay. I'm a morning person. My wife, it's a night owl. I like the light. She likes the house closed. I like the air conditioning blasting at 70 degrees. She can't stand it. She needs a 78. Uh, I like sweets. I like candies. I like everything else. She can't stand on anything of that. So we are two totally different persons. Totally. But we respect each other. We understand the needs of each other. So when we decided that we are in a life together because we needed to learn from each other and not to compete with each other, everything changes. So this crowd that we have in the family won't be acting as an impediment for ourselves. We're going to be giving to each other support to move on. So that's what's important also to understand. The crowd that we have in the families, it happens because we have different backgrounds and different experiences. But once we are in a lifetime together, that means that all of us, we have something to learn from each other and not to compete and go against each other.
Good. That was a very nice conversation. I dare say that's even that's a lecture in itself. Right? Well, that was it, and thank you very much. So thank you, Alex. I mean, heartfelt thanks also to everyone who joined us for today's live, and especially also those who follow us weekly in this talk series. And everybody's continuing engagement is truly appreciated. And for next Saturday, we invite to join us again, 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, another live session. This time is going to be brought to us by our friend Marcia Trajano, and she'll be exploring the topic evolution and consciousness. And so we look forward to for you to having you all with us. So, Alex, before we close, so do you have any final comments, final closing arguments, and would you also be so kind to say the final prayer for us?
Yes, no, actually, I don't have any other comments or anything else. I just would like to thank him once again for the opportunity in being here and being part of this wonderful work and this talk. It's always very nice for me, especially because every time that we prepare ourselves for a talk, a presentation, or a conversation, or something like that, we learn something else. It's not the very first time that I do this talk, that I do this presentation, and every time that I make it, every time that I read it, I see something different and I learn something different. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity for being here today and this morning. And as we are come to a close, I would like to raise our thoughts to the heavens and connect with our Heavenly Father to say, Dear God, our Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for your mercy, for your kindness, for offering us this life, these opportunities, for trusting in us some challenges, some tasks, giving us the tools that we needed to fulfill those tasks, and trusting on us and our capability and possibilities of evolvement. Thank you, Jesus, for your guidance, your light, your behavior, your examples, which taught us since the 2000 years ago how we should be behaving and facing the challenges and obstacles of our lives. We only ask that your blessings and your light might shine upon us, giving us the strength that we need to fight against our own imperfections, so we can be tomorrow much better persons than we were yesterday. And we can get at the end of our this existence, this incarnation, much better than we came. Thank you. So be it.